and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence for the men and women of our armed services. Thank you.
What am I hearing?
You're hearing Beth. Hold on, let me bring that down.
The notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey have been satisfied by the inclusion of the date, time, and place of this meeting in the notice of regular meetings adopted by this board on January 5th, 2026. Such schedule and notice of meetings is posted at the Municipal Building, the Mount Olive Library, the Board of Education offices, and the 6 schools, was submitted to the Daily Record for publication on January 6th, 2026, and was filed with the clerk of Mount Olive Township on January 6th, 2026. I direct that this announcement be entered into the minutes of this meeting. Roll call.
Mrs. Aquino?
Here.
Ms. Brett?
Here.
Mrs. Fitzgerald?
Here.
Mrs. Melendez?
Here.
Mrs. O'Neill?
Here.
Mr. Arzillo?
Here.
Mr. Petrie?
Here.
Mrs. Figuera?
Here.
And Dr. Giordano.
Here. Ms. Aquino, approval of the minutes?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve action items 2.1 and 2.2, approval of open and closed session minutes.
Second.
Questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, roll call.
Ms. Aquino?
Yes.
Ms. Brett?
Yes.
Mrs. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendez?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Arzillo?
Yes.
Mr. Petrie?
Yes.
Mrs. Figuera?
Yes.
And Dr. Giordano.
Yes. Communication petitions, the board did receive communication from a resident concerning the high school class officer elections. I believe that's the only one we got, Dr. Banja. And I did forward that to the full board. Just see that. Superintendent's report right now, Dr. Banja, the floor is yours. We're going to start off.
Thank you, everyone. At this
Bang.
time, I would like to invite Mr. David Nash from Legal One, who's going to be presenting on HIB law. Mr. Nash.
So thank you so much. It's wonderful to have a chance to be here with all of you and talk about a law that is constantly evolving and at the forefront of so many of our minds. So thank you for having me. I had the pleasure today of working with your administrators and talking through a lot of the latest developments around our anti-bullying Bill of Rights. And you have an incredibly impressive team. That is very thoughtful and has some of the most thorough protocols I have seen in the state of New Jersey. So you should feel very good about the comprehensive procedures that your district has put into place on a law that is not an easy one to implement. All of you I know have access to the presentation that I'm walking through. Again, I'm David Nash. I oversee the Legal One program. We do school law training for school districts across the state of New Jersey on a wide range of legal issues, but there is no topic that we're asked to do training on more than the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights. So it's a great opportunity to have a chance to talk with all of you. As I said, you all have access to what I'm going to walk through. I know you have a lot on your agenda, so I'm going to walk through these issues. Please jump in as I go with any questions that you might have. Keep in mind as we go, I'm giving you information but not legal advice. You have a wonderful board attorney for the legal advice piece, but please jump in with any questions that you might have as I go. One of the things that I think is important to sort of kick off a conversation like this is just grounding us in New Jersey's definition. Because probably each of us growing up had in our own mind what we thought of as bullying. And as parents, we have in our own mind what we think of as bullying. And, you know, all of those are legitimate perspectives, but in the state of New Jersey, there is a very specific definition. And it's important to remind folks of that. So in New Jersey, we do know that incidents could happen anywhere. And it is important for parents and students and staff members to understand that. You could have issues that occur off school grounds that still meet our definition. You could have incidents that occur even over the summer that potentially meet our definition. You could have a single incident. Typically, if you have a bullying issue, it is a repeated pattern of behavior, but we know it doesn't have to be. So it's important for folks to understand one incident could meet this definition. In New Jersey, and this is not true in every state, in New Jersey, you do need a distinguishing characteristic. You do need to have a reason that one student is targeting another student. You are looking through the eyes of the alleged victim in New Jersey. So sometimes you will have a student make a hurtful comment without bad intent. And could be that they're repeating song lyrics or just not thinking through the impact of what they're saying. And potentially, you could still have an HIB issue on your hands because you're looking through the eyes of the victim. Do they believe they were targeted because of some characteristic? Is that a reasonable perception? And does it meet the rest of our criteria? Did it cause substantial disruption or interference with the operation of the school or the rights of students? So sometimes you will have an incident that could be devastating for one student, but for whatever reason, for another student, they don't think twice about what was said or done. They move on very quickly. Question?
Real quick question, Mr. Nash. So as I look at this, just to clarify, when we go through this checklist, it has to be a distinguishing characteristic, but if it doesn't substantially disrupt, it may not be an HIB.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
But it can't be substantially disruption and not have a distinguishing characteristic.
Absolutely.
Right.
You need all of those criteria.
Yeah.
Right, so keep in mind, one student hits another student on the playground and the student is harmed and is injured. You've got substantial disruption, but you might not have a distinguishing characteristic. So you might not have an HIB issue. And it is important for folks to understand that there's a pretty big code of student conduct. There's lots of other behavior that often needs to be addressed, but it might not fit into this definition. It doesn't mean that the issue is not taken seriously. And if there is a situation with substantial disruption, what you're typically looking for is a change from that student's baseline. For that particular student, is this having a lasting impact? Is it causing fear? Is it causing emotional harm? Is it making it difficult for the student to function in school? And then if you do have a confirmed case of HIB, the district has to be pretty clear about what that harm is and documenting the evidence to support that harm. Physical harm, fear, emotional harm, something that was demeaning to a group the student is part of, something that creates a hostile environment for a student where they can't function well in school. So every confirmed HIB has to be specific and hit all of these criteria. Again, New Jersey's definition might not be what any of us would have had in mind ourselves when we think about what is harassment, intimidation, or bullying.
So what was the reasoning of making a HIB so, all right, you have to hit these 4 boxes when the layperson's going to say, it's like, my kid's been bullied. But if you don't have that check mark, it's no longer bullying. What was the reasoning, or like, what could be the reasoning of making a HIB so criteria heavy where a layperson's not going to understand that, and we see my kid's been bullied. It's like, well, it wasn't a HIB because it didn't meet all these. Yeah. So why would they make it so difficult to found a HIB?
It's a great question, and you're asking me to explain legislators in trying to answer that question. I'm not sure that any of us would have come up with this same particular definition. I think the reason for a statewide law was to have a single, clear, consistent definition. And there are good constitutional grounds for building in the substantial disruption piece, because outside of even bullying, if you want to look at potential discipline for student speech, the Tinker versus Des Moines case tells us you need to have some specific evidence of substantial disruption. And a lot of bullying does involve some form of speech, some form of expression. And some of it might not be pleasant, but might be constitutionally protected. So I think that was part of the reason to have the substantial disruption component built into this. It is important, though, to not feel like if something doesn't meet this definition, it won't be taken seriously. Of course it will. And I think that's a very important message to get across. What we see across the state, and I think you see this here as well, is that the majority of the time when an issue is investigated, we find that it is more likely to be conflict than bullying, because context matters. Something might have happened in that moment on the playground that looked one-sided, that looked like one student was targeting another, but the investigation might say that the student who looks like they were the target did something similar as the aggressor this morning, or did something similar on the bus after school, and what you really could have is a mutual engagement by two students that is more conflict in HIB. So context always matters when you're looking at these issues. You can't simply look at one moment in time and know one way or another whether you have a bullying issue. Now, I will say that bullying is primarily one-sided, but let's say you have a student who has been targeted for the last 3 months, and there are terrible things being said and done day after day, and the student responds and makes one comment back. That doesn't turn a bullying situation into conflict. You're looking at primarily, is it one-sided or is it a mutual engagement of students? We're seeing more and more cases of retaliation now under New Jersey law. So sometimes you'll have a student who was accused of bullying, and perhaps they did it, and there's a substantiated case, and that person is now angry that they were found to have engaged in bullying, and they make a claim against the other person. And sometimes those claims are made knowing that they're not true. So if you have a knowingly false claim, that is a violation of the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights. Not so easy to prove, right? I mean, knowingly false is a very specific standard. It's not that you didn't understand the law, it's that you know this wasn't truthful and you claim it was. So that would violate the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights. And if it was because of some distinguishing characteristic, it could be itself a form of bullying. Two pieces to that. It could be retaliation and violate the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights. It could be bullying itself because the student was targeted because of a characteristic. In New Jersey, we are very specific about the way to do this, and following the process is critical. So there always has to be what is called now a 338 form, because that was the chapter, Public Laws Chapter 338, required that every time we have one of these investigations, there is a form completed either by a parent or a staff member. In every case, that is a hallmark document that you as a board would have a right to review, the initial 338 complaint that was filed. If you had a case where perhaps a parent verbally reported an incident and didn't fill out that form, then the staff member who spoke to that parent would have a legal obligation to complete that form. So you always want to look to make sure you have that in every case. New Jersey does say that some conduct that occurs away from school grounds will meet this definition. So it is important for parents and students to understand that. And that's not a new concept. We had a case way back in 1970, before we had an Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights, RR versus Shore Regional. One student threatened another with a knife. It had happened off school grounds, but the student who had been threatened was very fearful in school, and the school district imposed discipline. It was challenged, and New Jersey Superior Court said the school district had the right to impose that discipline, because even though an incident occurred off school grounds, it was impacting the student in school. So you always want to be aware that's what you're looking for. Is this causing substantial disruption in school? It could even occur over the summer. I'm not wishing this on anyone. I hope you have the best summer in the world, and there's not a single incident between any students. But if you were to learn about an incident that occurred over the summer, that if it occurred during the school year would meet this definition, it could still be HIB. Now, it's less likely, because sometimes if something happens in the middle of July, it won't cause substantial disruption in September. But it's not impossible. Some behavior could still be so upsetting that it's still causing harm. So you want to recognize that that certainly could occur. You have a big role in this whole process, and there's lots of layers to it. I feel like it was a former life, but I did spend 6 years as a school board member. When I was on the school board, we didn't have the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights, so we didn't have the same specificity that you have now. Of course, you have to have policies in place. Personnel and proper training is critical. And you do a great job of that here. So you have an anti-bullying specialist who leads your investigations. You have multiple anti-bullying specialists in each of your schools, and that's a good practice. And they have a key role to play. You need to make sure they're in place, they have proper training. You need to make sure that all staff are trained to understand, because every staff member has an obligation to report these issues. So you make sure you have the personnel, the resources, the training. When requested, you will have a hearing for any parent who disagrees with the outcome of an investigation. That hearing could occur before you vote to affirm, modify, or reject a conclusion, but it could also occur after. Parents have 60 days to ask for a hearing from the time they are informed of the outcome of the investigation and the fact that you've been informed. So, you know, that timeline doesn't fit neatly with your timeline, which would be to vote at the next board meeting. But typically, if a parent is going to appeal, they would do it before that happened. You do vote every single time to affirm, modify, or reject the conclusion that is reached. And as individual board members, I suspect a lot of people in the community know that you are individual board members, right? So it is very possible that somebody will bring an issue to your attention, and your legal obligation is pretty simple. Get it to the superintendent, remind the parent of the process that they can follow to formally report this, and trust that the process will be followed by the district. So referral to the superintendent is always critical. You would never want a parent to think that any individual board member can actively investigate one of these issues. But a parent who doesn't know better might think that's your role.
And also, I just want to point out too, Mr. Nash, it's a good point. Even though we're going to refer to the superintendent, we'd also give the parents the process if they can go online where it's out on the website. The
That's
forms are
right.
all on there as well.
Yeah, it's always good to let the parent know what the process is, and it's easy to find. You've made it very simple on your website. So a few key timelines to keep in mind in this process. A staff member who becomes aware of an issue has to report it that day to the principal. Principal, within 1 day, has to initiate the bullying investigation, and they do that by directing the anti-bullying specialist to start investigating. Clock starts ticking at that point. There's 10 school days to complete the investigation, 2 more days from when the investigation is completed to write a report. At the next board meeting, after that occurs, you are informed of the conclusion that was reached in that investigation. Then a letter goes home to the parents. Parents can ask for a hearing. If they ask for a hearing, you give it to them within 10 days, and then at the next board meeting, you vote to affirm, modify, or reject. And then parents have appeal rights beyond that. They have the right to appeal a decision to the Commissioner of Education. If they believe there was some form of discrimination, there's also additional rights in state or federal court to potentially bring discrimination claims. So that process is critical. It is important for the community to understand what is not your role as well. Again, this education piece.
Good for us too.
Well, good for everybody, right? Of course, as an individual board member, you wouldn't have any greater rights. If you are a parent, you have the same rights every parent has on these issues, but not greater rights to have a priority over other investigations. You are, of course, getting lots of confidential information about alleged incidents, and you do have a legal obligation to keep that information confidential. And again, folks in the community might not always appreciate that and know that you're not allowed to start going into detail about the allegations that have been brought to the district's attention. You could never use your position to pressure anybody to reach a certain conclusion. You couldn't allow any personal connection to influence your actions or votes, and that, I know that is not easy because it's natural that you're going to know a lot of people in the community. Very important to have that separation. If there ever was somebody, of course, who was a relative, now there would be school ethics rules that would kick in about recusal, so recognizing that. We have seen some individual board members across the state and country who sometimes forget key parts of their role. So in New Jersey, if you are a board member who also happens to be a parent, you're out at a independent community soccer event with your child that's not even connected to the district, and another parent mentions a potential bullying issue in the community, they're not talking to you as a board member, they're talking to you as a parent. Well, you never really get to take off your hat as a board member. You now have an issue that has been brought to your attention, so you need to get it to our superintendent's attention. You need to make sure the parents have their right to have the issue properly investigated, even if that parent's not asking you to do that. Right? So once you become aware of a potential issue, you become a mandated reporter for that as well. We, of course, do not independently investigate these issues. So you are relying on the district to do an investigation. It's perfectly appropriate as part of a board hearing to ask questions about the process that was followed in that investigation. We have seen a few overzealous boards that decided to start asking their own questions in the community and gathering their own information, and that is not the role of a board member to do that. And you probably recognize this, but there is no magic number of HIB incidents that tells you you have a good school or a bad school, a good district or a bad district. Frankly, New Jersey law, because of the way it is written, anticipates there will be a good number of investigations. And the fact that you have a number of investigations doesn't say anything negative about the district. It really says the district recognizes the law and how it works. So I think it's a positive that you have that number of investigations that you have. We have a code of ethics, as you all know, for school board members. You've all been trained on it. And it's important to just, I think, remind the community of the ethics code that you have when it comes to these issues. So of course, as board members, it's not your job to administer the schools, but to see that they are well run. Authority rests with the full board, not with any individual board members. Your job is to make sure that you are allowing the district to go through the appropriate processes. As we said, lots of confidential information will ultimately, inevitably come your way when there are particular issues. The ethics rules are quite clear that you have a strong legal obligation to keep that information confidential. So this just stresses that point. If information is disclosed that shouldn't be, it's quite clear and foreseeable that there will be harm in many cases to others if information is shared about particular students, about particular staff members, about a particular investigation. So you always want to be careful to make sure you don't approach those lines. And the sort of stuff that could happen if we did disclose information, I think it's self-evident, right? Let's say there was an allegation against a staff member or a student. You know, sharing all of the details about that could be needlessly harming that student or that staff member. Releasing sensitive information could cause all sorts of harms for everybody involved. Technology has made things more complicated, of course. So for all the wonderful things about technology, students also have found some clever ways to use it in not so great ways as well. So a few things to keep in mind with technology. Sometimes technology makes things a little bit too easy. So you have two staff members who are trying to figure out how to deal with a challenging issue involving a child, and they start texting each other about that student. What those staff members would be doing is inadvertently creating a student record that, of course, the parent would have a right to see. You know, this is educationally relevant information about a child, and sometimes staff members don't recognize that. So same thing would be true if you all started texting and sharing information about a particular student in your role as board members. So you want to be very careful not to inadvertently be creating records when that was not anybody's intent, because parents will have a right, of course, to see those records. Electronic communications sometimes do provide evidence of intent, right? Somebody reveals to a friend why they did this terrible thing, and that matters. Sometimes someone will create electronic communication and then quickly delete it and think it's gone. It usually isn't. It's usually there, either on social media or on somebody else's device. And if we ever have a terrible incident involving sexually explicit imagery, law enforcement has to get involved. even if you had a situation with consensual sharing of explicit imagery, district has no choice but to make law enforcement aware. Now, there's a lot of discretion for what law enforcement does at that point. It doesn't mean there will be any criminal prosecution, but they have a process they have to follow. Social media, of course, creates real challenges. One of them is that the harm that would have been, in many cases, isolated, perhaps 2 students saw an incident or engaged in an incident, becomes exponentially more difficult because 100 other students comment on the incident on social media. And now you've got a much bigger set of issues. The students who are commenting on the embarrassing video could themselves be engaging in harassment, intimidation, or bullying just by their comments, or even by something as simple as a like to something that was posted on social media, because that does, in many cases, add to the harm. You know, the fact that 100 students liked this terrible post makes it that much more harmful for the student who was targeted. Even private chats where the target is not included could be bullying, and this is pretty common. Sometimes you'll have a group of a dozen students who are all in a private chat talking with each other, and they're talking about student number 13, who's not part of the private chat, and thinking this is a private conversation, you know, the student won't be harmed. There is almost a 100% chance that student number 13 will find out from one of the students, 1 through 12, or some other way, that this conversation took place. And New Jersey has said, even if you're not part of that private chat, you could be the victim of bullying based on the terrible things that were said about you by those other 12 students. And, you know, students are expected to understand that, that is almost inevitable in these cases. Artificial intelligence adds a new layer to all of this, right? And there are wonderful uses for artificial intelligence. This is not meant to demonize this at all, but it also has been used in some very concerning ways. For example, creating deepfakes. Deepfake images that can be incredibly harmful to students. And sometimes those deepfakes have involved sexually explicit imagery. Sometimes those deepfakes have targeted staff members. And you've seen what looks like an authentic video from a teacher or a principal or another staff member that never happened. What's challenging now is that you don't have to be a technology wizard to do this, right? Artificial intelligence, unfortunately, has made it much easier for your layperson to be able to create this sort of authentic-looking imagery. So you just need to be prepared for that additional layer that could come with these issues of figuring out what is or is not authentic. And we have new state and federal laws on that issue. So we have a new state law that makes clear that if you are creating these deepfake images, you could have bullying, but much worse. You could have a crime on your hands. It wasn't clear before New Jersey revised its law that some of those deepfakes could potentially be crimes, because the argument, as strange as it sounds, was that, well, these aren't real, so you can't prosecute me for something that's not real. But the harm is real. And New Jersey made clear that you can certainly still have a crime. We also had a recent federal law that actually makes it easier for you to get these horrible videos down. So let's say there is a deepfake video of a student that is causing ongoing and escalating harm. If the social media platform is notified, they have a legal obligation to remove it within 48 hours now. And that's as of this May. That's new. So that is a good tool for school districts to have available. There was a terrible incident in New Jersey, alleged incident. In Somerset County, it just sort of drives home the point that there is the potential for criminal prosecution of these types of issues now under New Jersey law. We also have the complication of a new law limiting access to internet-enabled devices starting in September. I think you're ahead of many other districts because you had some very strong protocols in place already, but there is the potential that some students may try to defy this law, bring a device when they are not supposed to, and it becomes a potential HIB issue for the district if, while they have this device they weren't supposed to have, they do something they're not supposed to do, like cyberbullying. So it's critical for the district to fully embrace 100% enforcement of this new law, as challenging as we know it will be. A few quick cases, just to highlight a couple of cases that struck me as interesting. This was the first case I saw where we had no identified offender, and the commissioner still found that there was bullying. So it was an unusual case. You had a student whose parent had passed away. Student places a sweatshirt in her locker as she's going to an activity in gym, and she places the sweatshirt in her locker. It had a memorial message about her father. Some students snuck into the locker room and cut out the message. She comes back, and you could imagine how traumatic it is to have that happen. The district couldn't figure out who the student was, but ultimately the commissioner agreed that it's still bullying because it was one of the students who did this. It did cause emotional harm. The characteristic was loss of father, and the student was targeted for after having lost a parent in that case. So first time I saw a case without a specific identified offender that was confirmed. I will say that this is different from a case about an anonymous post online. That would still be looked at differently, I think, because that anonymous post online could come from out of state, could come from an adult who you don't have any jurisdiction over. So it's a little bit unique, but it is at least possible you could have a confirmed case. This was a case involving a grade 4 through 6 school where a vice principal became aware of a potential bullying issue. Parent comes in, sees the vice principal, principal's not there. And the vice principal calls in the anti-bullying specialist and says, parent, please repeat what you just told me about this alleged bullying incident. Then the vice principal asks the anti-bullying specialist to start an investigation. 3 months later, the parent comes back and says, why did nobody investigate this issue? The anti-bullying specialist says, well, I wasn't told by the principal to start the investigation. I was told by the vice principal to start the investigation. The district gets angry, but they get angry at the vice principal, not the anti-bullying specialist, brought tenure charges against the vice principal, and that vice principal was demoted to teacher for not following the process. So this does show that we have to follow the process, and the process is to report it to the principal. Principal then directs the anti-bullying specialist to initiate the investigation. I can't imagine this would ever happen here because you have very tight protocols in place, and Hipster helps with that to make sure that I don't think that would ever happen. But the larger point is make sure every step of the process is followed to a T. Sometimes you will have an allegation against a coach. Coaching is so important, and sort of by definition, coaches are constantly giving feedback that sometimes kids don't want to hear. So this was a case that I've seen a few times where the commissioner concluded that the coach was a little bit mean, but was mean to everybody and was not targeting any particular student for any particular reason, so it didn't meet the HIB standard. If you are a tough coach and you're giving tough feedback to everyone, maybe there's a better way to do things, but it's not going to be HIB if you didn't single somebody out because of a characteristic. We have seen some cases where boards have gone beyond their role and used information that was never part of the investigation, was never reported before the Board of Ed level. And this was one of those cases where a parent asked for a hearing, brought up a new set of issues that had not been brought to the district's attention or investigated. The Board of Ed relied on this new set of issues that had never been brought up before and changed the outcome of the HIB investigation. And the commissioner said the board shouldn't have done that. If there's a brand new allegation that was never investigated, it should be investigated. The board shouldn't just assume that this thing you're hearing for the very first time is true and we have a bullying issue. So it is important to redirect parents in a case like that to bring them through the proper channels, those new allegations. Social media, when you have a private group chat, like I mentioned, often you do have a student who finds out about the terrible things that were said. This is an example of that. And you still had a bullying case when the student found out, even though they weren't part of the private chat. And sometimes we do have inappropriate behavior that doesn't meet our definition. Here was an example of a lunchroom aide who didn't like a particular student and started telling that student every day at lunch, you're not allowed to go out and play with the other kids. And word didn't get back to the parent right away. A parent eventually found out about it, brought a bullying complaint against the aide. The district concluded that it was not bullying because they couldn't figure out any characteristic about why the aide was targeting the student. Now, that doesn't mean you excuse the behavior. It was inappropriate behavior. There was staff discipline. The district made sure it never happened again. So there's all sorts of issues that can be brought to a district's attention that have to be fixed, that have to be addressed, but might not meet our technical definition of HIB. And this was one of them, because without that characteristic, you can't have an HIB. So I know I went through that very quickly, but questions that folks have?
Any questions for board members? Thank you very much. Mr.
Thank you
Nash.
so much for
Appreciate it.
having me. Thank you.
Anything else, Dr.
I'm good.
You good? Right now, we're going to go to closed session. We have a few hearings we have to listen to. Right now, should be about a half hour, give or take, maybe longer, maybe 45 minutes. So we're going to roll into closed session right now. Motion to recess in confidential session.
So moved.
Resolved that the board meet in confidential session for the purpose of discussing matters of attorney-client privilege, confidential pupil matters, pending or anticipated litigation. Be it further resolved that the matters discussed in confidential session be disclosed to the public when the reasons for confidentiality no longer exist. Like I said, it'll be about a half hour, 45 minutes, folks. We're in recess. Closed session.
Mrs. Quino,
Here.
Ms. Brett,
Here.
Mrs. Fitzgerald,
Here.
Mrs. Melendez,
Here.
Mrs. O'Neill,
Here.
Mr. Orzello,
Here.
Mr. Petrie,
Here.
Mrs. Figuera. There we go. And Dr. Giordano.
Here, thank you. We're moving right along now. We're moving to
Committee reports.
committee reports. Personnel Committee. Personnel Committee met tonight. It was Dr. Bangio, myself, Mr. Moore, Ms. Aquino, Mr. Petrie. We discussed a lot of confidential things. Important thing that the committee's working on this and the administration's working on is redoing the advisor's job description. Particularly, we're starting at the middle school right now.
For co and extra.
And co-curricular extra activities, thank you. Starting at the middle school now, and to really set that in motion, and to start off what expectations are going to be and how we're going to be moving forward with all those. And so that'll come up probably next month as well. And just a couple of confidential things that we'll go over in the next closed session, just to update the board real fast. And the rest were action items that the committee put forward for full board approval. So any questions or comments? Did I miss anything, Ms. Quino, Mr. Petrie? Nope. Dr. B?
All good.
Moving right along, super. Finance and operations.
Yep, Finance and Operations met Monday, July 13th. Everybody was in attendance. We covered off on all of the reports. So we reviewed security report, transportation report, and facilities report. Am I really loud? There we go. All with the looking ahead for preparations for the 26-27 school year. Our discussion topics also included closing out the 25-26 budget and moving into the 26-27 budget with our interim business administrator. We also had a discussion around co-ops. We have some new rules around co-op agreements and details around that. So New Jersey law has now put additional restrictions on the use of cooperative purchasing agreements. And so we went through the changes of what we know going forward because we actually do a lot of co-op work. And so that we understand what that means for legal review, direct bidding, board action, et cetera. We talked about our temporary classroom units at MOMS. If you guys have been by there, you've seen probably work being done, lots going on. Again, the goal is for those to be ready to serve our health classrooms at the middle school this fall. So we are currently working on things like fire alarm work to make sure that everything is done on time. And the rest were action items that we reviewed and approved. Anything else, Finance and Ops, that we need to? No? Okay.
Super, thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, super duper. CNI, Ms. Brett will be giving that report. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Figuera?
C&T.
CNT? That is correct. Well, it says Curriculum Instruction Committee. We got to fix that.
Okay. You're okay about that, Beth?
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We met July 13th. Everyone was in attendance. Dr. Bangia, Elizabeth McDermott, Beth Ann, myself, and Jeannie O'Neill. Chronic absenteeism rate we discussed, school climate survey summaries, code of conduct, special education update, professional and development partnerships. As a matter of fact, they're using a huge grant that they received, so congratulations and kudos to them. AP score overview, kindergarten through 5 student performance data, BOE curriculum presentation, and the 2026-2027 goal settings. And I believe that was it.
Super. Questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Brett. Policy and governance, Ms. Melendez.
Yes, the policy committee met on July 15, and in attendance were Dr. Banja, Ms. Fitzgerald, Ms. Figuera, and myself. The main topics discussed were policy updates based on Strauss's mail errors 237 and 238. The committee reviewed the policy updates outlined in Strauss's mail alerts 237 and 238. Most revisions are necessary to align district policy with recent changes in state law, administrative code, NJDOE guidance, federal grant monitoring requirements, and updated audit and compliance standards. Applicable policies are listed as a first reading on tonight's meeting agenda, while obsolete regulations will be recommended for abolishment. Policies that do not apply to the districts require no action. Policy and Regulation 5516, which is a student use of internet-enabled devices, will be held until the August meeting, pending additional guidance from next May. Because the new requirements are effective for the school year 2026 and 2027, the delay may require the board to suspend bylaw 0131, which ordinarily requires 2 readings, and adopt policy and regulation 5516 following 1 reading. The committee also discussed correspondence received from the Thomas More Society. The committee also reviewed a proposed policy intended to safeguard younger students who use district transportation. Under the proposed policy, a parent or designated responsible person will be required to be present at the bus stop when a student in pre-kindergarten through grade 3 boards and exits the school bus. This policy is listed as first reading on tonight's meeting agenda. The committee also reviewed policy 5312, which is a class size to determine whether it continues to accurately reflect the needs of district students. Additional discussion is needed before determining whether any revision should be recommended for this one.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Melendez. Subcommittees, Parent-Teacher Association reports, board members? Seeing none? Oh, you got one for us? Ms. Narcisse?
Hello. So I am here representing our CPEG, Special Ed Parent Association Group. On Thursday, July 9th, our former leadership from 25-26 school year met with our new leadership, myself and Alyssa Wetzel were present during that time for a official transition of all formal information. Under our new leadership, we are planning on meeting over the next month to finalize our calendar of topics and speakers. We plan on continuing our meetings for the second Tuesday of every month, starting in September, running through June. We intend to be present at all of our open houses, so we're hoping to have one of us present for each of the elementaries, middle school, and high school. We actually have some topics already planned. We're looking to finalize and make those decisions. We're looking for topics such as inclusive tech, unified and best buddies coming to speak, the New Jersey Special Ed Budsman coming to speak. We're looking for more information to present to parents on transition planning, whether that be from preschool to kindergarten or going from 5th grade up to 6th, as well as our transitions from middle school to high school, and for those who are going into the adult world as one of our special ed students as well. We're looking for presentations also on navigating the evaluation process for our parents and proper IEP meetings and the new prize laws related to that. We're also going to hopefully invite district to come and speak about mental health as it pertains to our students and parents. Some behavioral strategies, possibly bringing in some BCBAs. And we're looking to bring back, in coordination with the district, the resource fair. We didn't have one last year, as well as a proper transition fair. So we're going to be discussing and finalizing all that. And then we also are looking to be meeting with district leadership, possibly August 20th, I think right now we're looking at, so that we can finalize once we have our agenda topics met, that the district can have input and be presenting at all of our meetings as much as possible, as well as allowing parents to have their own advocacy as well. We're also looking to implement a bi-monthly standing meeting with administration, and we're looking for a bit more communication and collaboration to work with the district to bring all the parents' concerns to the forefront. And that's all I have for tonight. Any questions?
Questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, the meeting second Tuesday each month, where is that? Is that virtual?
They're virtual.
Okay.
Yep, 7 o'clock.
Super.
Anyone else?
I think that's it. Thanks, Ms. Narcisse.
Thank you.
There is no board president's report. Public comments on action items. The Board of Education welcomes and encourages input from the public, being mindful of privacy rights regarding students and board employees, and to avoid any potential liability on the part of the speaker. The board discourages references to specific individuals. While directing your comments or questions to the board president, please understand that public comment portions of the meeting are not structured as question and answer sessions, but rather are offered as opportunities for you to share your thoughts with the board. The board president may need to refer an issue to the superintendent if the particular issue has not been handled through the appropriate chain of command with the school district. However, responses may be provided at the end of this session. There are times when comments and questions will require additional fact gathering before response is provided. Ask anything on action item 6.1 down to
1023.
1023. Thank you, Mr. Petrie.
Hopefully I'm commenting at the right time.
That's all right. If not, we'll.
On action items, I'll let you know, Ms.
Well, it was
Swanson.
a previous action item, the one that was tabled. That was what I'm just curious about. Alyssa Wetzel, 12 North Mount Olive Road.
You mean from last board meeting?
Last board meeting.
Oh, it's it's on the
Is it old business?
no, it's
new
on the
business?
agenda. The one you're talking about with that.
It's not. With it, that was my question. Is it's not
should be
on
on
the agenda, and so I was just
I thought it was gonna be on the agenda tonight.
It is.
okay. Should I?
Can I get that name? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Alyssa Wetzel,
Thank you.
12
in a
North
chart.
Mount Olive Road, Bud
It's in
Lake.
a chart.
It's not. And not on that one, at least. The transfers.
Okay. I'm not going to comment on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're not gonna comment on
So-
that. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not on this agenda, so should I not comment here? Sorry, hello, everybody.
I'm not sure.
Or should I comment in the next?
There's a little confusion. Just give me a second to figure that out.
You know what I'm
Ms.
talking
Swanson.
about, right?
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking
Transfer, not referring to the person.
about. Right.
There's transfers on.
The
other
transfers
people.
from the last meeting, June.
Not this
the
individual.
June
Oh, the transfer from last meeting. Not the. Now I understand. Yeah, yeah. The transfers aren't on here, are they?
Yes.
Yes, the transfers are on there.
They're not the ones from the last meeting.
I think we're trying, if you can just speak who
Sure.
you're looking for.
Okay, I am looking for the transfer from Mountain View, I don't want to name names, from Mountain View to CMS, from the preschool ASD program to the kindergarten ASD program.
You can say, what would you like to share?
I just wanted to know if there was a conclusion to that, if you had voted on those transfers, and just that I have concerns that my son could potentially have a teacher for 5 consecutive years. Nothing against her, she's a wonderful human being. And I did bring this up with Mr. Burge and Ms. Huffman, and I just wanted you guys to be aware that some of these students will have the same teacher for 5 years in a row, because that is a K-2, that's a 3-year program. Like I said, this is nothing personal. She is a wonderful, wonderful human being, but kids with autism need a fresh perspective. And so next year would be year 3 for my son, and that's fine. He will have a fresh perspective with his related service providers. But 5 years, you wouldn't do that to a general education student. So I just want you to put yourself in my shoes a little bit and think about it's not really best practice in my opinion. The other question I had is what the process is when you're transferring a staff member. How do they find out that that's happening? Thank you.
That was a little confusing, Ms. Swanson. That's okay. I picked up on what you were saying. I thought it was something
It's
different.
not on here. Just the list that was on the June.
I'm not saying it was.
Yeah, no, I was thinking something else. I thought something else. It's not on. Yeah.
So, yeah, I was just.
No, there's a little confusion up there now.
What happened with it is all.
No.
If it's not an agenda, it's not.
Yeah, it's not on.
So, I'm sorry.
It hasn't been. That's okay.
But-
Next.
I feel like this is the most I've spoken in forever. Lisa Narcisse, 14 Del Bar Drive. I have one concern on the QSAC scores, and I feel like I should be sitting on that side of the table when I ask this question. But in the instruction and program, I see that our score is at an 87%, and I don't need a response for this, but I just want to point out that seems very low, and I know the passing score is 80%, so I just kind of want to maybe put it out there. Do we have a plan to improve that? And the other question, more along, confused out of my mind on the high school graduation policy. I know that Mount Olive has a different criteria than the state. We expect more of our students. This is rather confusing as to what is the state regulation versus what is the district policy and regulation. And I see there's a lot of information here related to alternate pathways for students who have IEPs and may have other services required. So I want to make sure that from a graduation standpoint, one, this is maybe cleaned up or clearer, or maybe someone can explain it to me at a separate time. And two, I want to make sure that all of our students have all of this applied to them if there's an alternate pathway to improve our graduation rates. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else? Closing the public comment. Ms. Wenzel, I was just confused by that. If it's not on the agenda, the decision hasn't been made yet, so that'll be forthcoming. I think, Ms. Huffman and Mr. Burge, and along with Dr. Bangia and Ms. McDermott are cognizant of your concern about having the same teacher for 4 or 5 years in a row. I know I've made it a practice, try not to have that happen too. I'm sure they're on the same mind and thinking about that same thing too. So that'll be something that we keep an eye on though, for sure. And Ms. Narcisse, all right, if I don't have to. I will say the alternate pathways. I know that's something that Dr. Banjo and Ms. McDermott and the high school really worked on to make sure we had, because we do know we have higher standards than the state requires, but some students, it might just be easier for them to get the state standard and have that pathway and send them on their way to get out of Mount Olive and move on with their lives. They may be going to the workforce, they may be going to the military, something a little different, so they're not looking to get those higher level, all those credits at because they're not going to college. So it's just something to help the students to get them out of school and help them. So, Mr. Petrie, motion to approve a consent agenda.
On the recommendation of the superintendent, I move to approve items 6.1 through 10.23.
Second.
Question or comments from the board?
I have only one question.
Ms. Melendez.
7.1, which is the professional development. Are we voting for that? Or we can abstain in our name, I guess?
Yeah, you would just abstain where you appear. Yeah, your name. Just abstain your name. Any questions? Anyone else?
I'm just abstaining on anything related to the Township of Mount Olive. 6.127-0129 and 27-0133.
Did you get that?
I got it.
All right, perfect. Anything else from anybody? Roll call?
Mrs. Aquino?
Yes, abstaining on anything that has Jennifer Aquino.
Ms. Brett?
Yes, abstaining anything related to the Township of Mount Olive.
Ms. Gerald? Fitzgerald, sorry.
No, we have to go back up.
Great, perfect. Okay, so I abstain on 7.1 and 8.3. Yes to everything else.
Okay. Mrs. Melendez?
Abstaining 7.1, anything related to Luisa Melendez, and anything related to Angela Sanchez, and yes to everything else.
Okay. Mrs. O'Neill?
I abstain from anything with Jeannie O'Neill and Christian Humphrey, and I'm going to say, 1 second, sorry, I lost my place. Yes to everything. What's that one here? Yes to everything else, thanks.
Okay. Mr. Arzillo?
Abstain is 7.1 where it says Mark Warzillo. Yes to everything else.
Mr. Petrie?
Abstain on 7.1 where it says John Petrie. Yes to everything else.
Mrs. Figuera? Sorry.
Can she hear?
Never muted.
Mrs. Figuera?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I said abstain on 7.1, anything that pertains to me, yes to everything else.
And Dr. Giordano?
Abstain on 7.1, anything that has to do with Anthony Giordano and anything that has to do with substitutes or substitute pay rate. Yes to everything else. From upstairs, we do have to read in 10.24, be it resolved that the board affirms the finding of the allegations of HIB were unfounded in case number 305218, MOM 03032026, heard in executive session, and be it further resolved that the parents shall be provided with a written decision informing them of the deposition and their appeal rights. Have a motion?
So moved.
Need a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Aquino,
Yes.
Ms. Brett,
Yes.
Mrs. Fitzgerald,
Abstain?
Mrs. Melendez,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Neill,
Abstain.
Mrs. Arzillo.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Arzillo. Apologize.
You didn't take it personally.
Don't. Mr. Petrie,
Yes.
Mrs. Figueroa. Oh, Figuera, sorry. Mrs. Figuera,
Yes, can you hear me?
yes.
Yep.
Gotcha. And Dr. Giordano.
Yes. Public comments on other going-ons with the district. The Board of Education welcomes and encourages input from the public, being mindful of privacy rights regarding students and board employees and to avoid any potential liability on the part of the speaker. The board discourages references to specific individuals. While directing your comments or questions to the board president, please understand that the public comment portions of the meeting are not structured as questions and answer sessions, but rather are offered as opportunities for you to share your thoughts with the board. The board president may need to refer an issue to the superintendent if the particular issue has not been handled through the appropriate chain of command with the school district. However, responses may be provided at the end of this session. There are times when comments and questions will require additional fact gathering before response is provided. Come up, say your name and address for the record.
Lisa Narcisse, 14 Delbar Drive. Probably could have said this during the action items, and Dr. Giordano, I'm totally going to break rule here and make a name, and want to say very sorry to see Mr. Stansberry, but congratulations on your retirement. 29 and a half years in district, and was that 38 years overall as an educator? You know, you've been with us for quite a while with my family. Both my kids are sorry to see you go, and I'll have more to say, but I want to say thank you for everything. And thank you, too, for initiating the start of this year. I see your date isn't until December, so I hope that you'll be a part of the hiring committee. And my other question to the board I pose is that we'd like to ask that a member of the CPEG leadership also be part of the hiring committee as well. And that's all.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Well, I'm glad you all have smiles, because this is indeed tough. My name is Gita Vogel. I live at 48 June Grass Way, Panther Valley, Alamucci. Mr. President, members of the board, guests, and community members. I think this thing's in the way.
We can hear you, though.
Oh, everybody can always hear me, but thank you. Thank you for acknowledging. Community members, and especially Kevin Stansberry. I can't look at you. I have to do it this way because I'm prone to emotion.
I'm prone to it.
For the newer members of the board who perhaps are unfamiliar with me, it is my privilege to be the designated representative from New Jersey Principals and Supervisors Organization to MOESA. You actually met one of my bosses earlier, Dave Nash. So I'm so very proud to work for him. It continues to be my privilege to serve in this capacity and to be so well received by the Board of Education. I thank all of you for that courtesy and that distinction. When one accepts the responsibility of being a principal, especially in an august district like Mount Olive, you sign on knowing that leadership is at the forefront of all you do. How you do it is what matters. Kevin is an outstanding individual whose passion for his district is legendary. Without that sense of ownership, mediocrity sets in. Never under the tutelage and guidance of Kevin Stansberry would that happen. To say it more affirmatively, Kevin lives by his word, and as such, has set a foundation of positive effort, self-reflection, and expectations of achievement that are the bywords of the Mount Olive High School. What this means is that he sets the example and expectation for others. Others include his staff, of course, but especially his students. No achievement goes unnoticed. Moreover, effort is also rewarded, and especially when challenges act to energize rather than to limit. Think about that. Students make strides under the direction of individuals who promote believing in themselves. In this case, it's Kevin Stansberry who sets the pace. His is an unending journey of believing that what you do and who you are is essential. Kevin, you are incredibly perceptive, intelligent, articulate, and above all, gracious for the opportunities to serve this district, its students, and your incredible staff. There is so much to say, but I do believe history over time will tell the complete story. Since accepting the responsibilities to lead as you have done, leaving or retiring, as it is formally referred to at this juncture, provides its own elements of challenges. You will be missed, but never forgotten. Still, with your personal dynamics, energy, and wisdom, you will have set the pace for the new principal. Who you are now establishes the successful pathway for the bridge to the future. Think about that. Think about that. It really is part of leadership. Thank you for the many, many conversations we have had throughout these years. I don't like goodbyes, can you tell? Instead, I will say, hello, Kevin Stansberry. You will always be Mr. Mount Olive. Thank you, everyone.
Closing public comment?
Can I answer questions from the first public comment?
Oh, yeah.
With respect to the graduation requirements, those changes were reflective of state changes. So what we did was we took the state adjustments as recommended by Strauss-Esme and incorporated into our existing policy. So certainly as a school district, we do have higher expectations as the 135, but the state has a minimum of 120. But we as the district, as a board, you have agreed to a 135 minimum for students to graduate. That has not changed.
Right.
with respect to our CUSAC scores, I'm actually proud to share that our scores had gone up over the past 3 years. So for those have an understanding of how CUSAC works with respect to the curriculum and instruction portion of it, 60 of the points are actually allocated based upon scoring from the state. That's on achievement. I'll read to you as far as the different categories. There's proficiency in areas of math and math and English. We also have graduation rate and also chronic absenteeism. In all 4 categories, we as a district have improved since our last rating of 2022. We also earned all 40 points on our curriculum portion of it, which is 40 points. So when you look at the totality of it, while our score is at an 87, that's an increase of about, I want to say, 4 or so points from the previous evaluation from 2022. So I'm actually really proud of the work that we've done here. Not only have we sustained and exceeded as far as curriculum expectation, scoring of a perfect score in the district, across the county and the state, as well as our proficiency rates have also improved across all measures for the state.
Thank you. Old business, anyone? I just want to update the board on our dome. So as you all know, the DCH Department, the DCA Department of Community Affairs, aggressive campaign against enforcement inspection of domes across the state. We met with township representatives. The township code official works for the DCA. They were working with us. We came up with a plan to address their concerns. In the meantime, the town let us know that they were looking at a certain date to shut down our dome till our hearing with the Morris County Construction Boards of Appeal. That hearing is on the 27th. Out of good faith, the superintendent, the business administrator, everyone involved, our buildings and grounds director, just decided to shut down the dome on our own to avoid everyone the trouble till after the appeals process. And so it just took the pressure off everyone's back. No one's looking to, getting a fight, a match with the township. They're just doing their job. So we're looking forward to that. We feel we have a very good, strong case with the appeals court. But right now, you will notice that there's signs on the dome that is shut down now. We do that periodically during the summers as it is. Just to not let people go in it, especially in the summertime. It's not really used at all. So I'll get more information as we're going along. And again, that's the 27th is that hearing. Any questions or comments from the board? No, super. Any new business? Board comments. Mr. Petrie.
Mr. Stansberry, congratulations. I hope your concert calendar will now be more full than it's been.
Ms. Melendez.
Happy retirement, Mr. Stansberry. We will miss you, but you will be around, I know, for functions. That's it.
Super. Ms. Brett.
I have no words, Kevin, other than thank you.
Ms. Aquino. Ms. O'Neill.
Congratulations. Really, you truly deserve a great retirement and rest.
Yeah.
Ms. Fitzgerald.
Agreed. I don't think there is such a thing as a bigger Mount Olive cheerleader than you. And some of you know this, some of you don't. Mr. Stansberry and my mom worked together at Del Val High School. He's always come very highly recommended and highly spoken of. But congratulations on your retirement.
Mr. Rosillo.
Same thing. Congratulations, Mr. Stansberry.
Ms. Figuera.
Congratulations, Mr. Stansberry. You'll be missed more than you know. We've got some big shoes to fill, but I wish you all the best in your next chapter.
And just for me, Kevin, congratulations. I think I've known you quite, if not Ms. Brett or myself, the longest. And I'll have more to say as we go through more of these meetings. But congratulations. It's well deserved. Confidential session. Be it resolved, the board being confidential sessions for matters of attorney-client privilege. And that is it. No action will be taken. We are in closed session. Thank you. Session, motion to adjourn? So moved. All those in favor? Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.